the mid-19th century, a Baptist preacher, William Miller, traveled the country preaching that the second coming of Christ was close at hand. Tens of thousands believed he was right.
The pivotal text that William Miller centered his apocalyptic lectures on was Daniel 8:14. Unto 2,300 days, and then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Cleansed! And he thought the sanctuary was the earth, and it would be cleansed by the fires of the second coming.
Miller's followers determined the cleansing would come on a single date, October 22nd, 1844. One of those who came to hear Miller speak was a young woman, Ellen White.
And at that time, Ellen White, my great-grandmother, and the whole family went to hear him. They were all impressed. They were impressed by his sincerity, his knowledge of the Bible, his understanding of prophecy, and his ability to explain things clearly and succinctly.
By the Holy Scriptures, cleansing by fire.
As October 22nd approached, true believers prepared to meet their God. Farmers abandoned their crops and livestock. Shop owners closed their businesses. Others simply threw away their money. And that night people gathered and waited to be united with their God. But the next morning, Ellen White and the others awoke to a world unchanged.
She believed with her whole heart that Jesus was coming. She writes in her own writings, I went home and I cried all night.
I think the disappointment of those earnest believers knew no bounds. And of course, mobs gathered about their places of worship to mock them and intensify their misery.
And that term, the Great Disappointment, is widespread among Adventists. It was a reality that still exists, I think, within the community. It did not come. And that, I think, undergirds the whole idea of the importance of the body. God didn't come back, but we've got one another, and God says He's with us.
As Ellen White sought to understand what the disappointment meant, she had visions. Over her lifetime, she is said to have had 2,000 visions, which Adventists believe came directly from God. Those visions would help chart a course for the new church.
She would often faint on the floor. They put a pillow under her head, and she would be seemingly out of it. They would test, and they couldn't see that she was breathing. And then she would come out of these and start saying what she had seen.
In 1863, she had what is known in my circles as the comprehensive health vision that outlined a deeper commitment to bodily health and an understanding of the close relationship between bodily health and spiritual wholeness.
This vision on health was actually quite encompassing. It talked about a plant-based diet, it talked about the need for sunshine, about the need for exercise, cleanliness, about the need of reducing sugar and increasing vegetables and fibers in the diet. But for those early Adventists, this was a major lifestyle change. And even for Ellen White, I mean, her favorite food was meat and white bread.
The vision came at a time when the life expectancy was just over 40, and doctors could get a degree with little or no study.
The condition of medicine was appalling. Basically, it was buyer beware. If you went to the doctor, the most common prescription you were given often contained things like drugging, bleeding, leeching, and even prescribing of smoking if you had a problem with coughing. In fact, the most common prescription was, when you began coughing, smoke 2 cigarettes immediately.
Medicine in the mid-19th century was based on adjusting the bodily fluids. Bleeding was if you got too much body heat, you just bleed off a pint of the stuff. If that didn't work, you try 2 pints. And then also, you could take medicines often that can, in fact, generally contain both arsenic and mercury, and they would definitely flush out your system, fore and aft. No rich person in the 19th century went to a hospital. They had a physician come with them. Because without germ theory, you died in a hospital.
Despite the public's fear of health institutions, in 1866, 3 years after it formed, the new Adventist Church opened the Western Health Reform Center in Battle Creek, Michigan. It became an instant success because so few people were dying. Soon, a brilliant young surgeon, John Harvey Kellogg, whose medical education was sponsored by Ellen White, became director. Kellogg changed the name to the Battle Creek Sanitarium, and over the next half-century built an empire around the evolving Adventist approach to medicine and healthy living.
Kellogg is the man who chose the word sanitarium because what he wanted is a place where people come to learn how to get healthy and to stay healthy.
People were getting fresh air, sunlight, patients who were taking walks, and he understood the benefit of the natural healing effects that were available in the environment, coupled the best of science with the best of what we can get naturally, and really did something that revolutionized care in his day.
Through the years, Kellogg's reputation as an eccentric personality was only enhanced by his passion for new ways to harness nature for diet and health. He experimented with heat treatments and hydrotherapies. Scores of celebrities came to Battle Creek, including President William Howard Taft, King Edward, inventor Thomas Edison, pilot Amelia Earhart. Kellogg's Sanitarium was now the largest health institution in the world.
These rich people came because they wanted to feel better. It was very pragmatic. We know that these Adventists can do what we can't get elsewhere. And this was a tremendous boon to the Adventist health work.
Adventist sanitariums began springing up across the country. But when the great Battle Creek Sanitarium burned to the ground in the early part of the 20th century, Kellogg wanted to rebuild it on an even grander scale. A rift developed between the powerful Kellogg and church leaders. In the end, John Harvey Kellogg, who patented a process for making peanut butter, is credited with helping to inspire a national exercise movement, and who, with his brother, created a name synonymous with the breakfast food industry, broke from the church, but not before helping to put the Adventist approach to health and the creation of unique health facilities on the map.
Florida Hospital admits 110,000 patients a year. We take care of over 1 million patients in our outpatient settings in our emergency rooms, and we operate on 150,000 people a year. We have become the largest admitter in the United States, the hospital that admits more patients than any other in the U.S., and also America's largest provider of Medicare services.
Florida Hospital is not one hospital, but a system of 7 campuses across Greater Orlando. The newest project is a 400-bed wing that overlooks a lake to combine the healing power of nature with state-of-the-art medicine. It's called Ginsburg Tower, named for a key benefactor.
Knowing it's a Seventh-day Adventist hospital and that my own particular faith is Jewish, I wanted to be sure that when you walked in the door, you were walked into a building whose